Welcome to Minority Focus. I'm your host, Jimmie Moore. I think I'm gonna stop saying it. Everybody knows by now. Anyway, there are a lot of wonderful things to do in Paducah. People often say there's nothing to do. We got nothing to do. There are so many things that are there for particularly young people to involve themselves in that are life-growing kinds of things. And to talk about that with me today is my guest, Michael
Cochran.
This is my guest, Michael Cochran. How about it? How about it, Mike?
All right. I've been directing you the last couple months. I know you.
I had to. I just couldn't resist. Welcome, Michael. Thanks a lot for joining. I'm telling you.
Thank you for inviting me.
You talk about James Brown being show business hardest working man. I think that credit goes to Michael in Paducah. I've never seen anybody do what you do, Michael. I couldn't do it. You're so involved and so busy. I was concerned about getting you on the show, but I didn't think there'd ever be a free minute for you.
Well, you know, there's so much going on at the theater, and people. It's not a job for me. It's something that I do as a passion. I view myself as an artist, and my art is making theater. I'm a designer, a set designer, lighting designer. I've done costume designs. I've done sound design. I'm a director of plays. I've worked in administration. I'm an administrator at the theater. And my title as executive director is kind of like everything that needs to be done. And we're a small staff, and as you walk by, if you see something that needs to be done, you do it. Right. So that's kind of where I come from. So I'm usually busy a lot.
Right. So not the guy sitting up on the thing there with the long cigarettes. Action movie, and that's all you do. You're in the meat of it.
Well, you're creating. You're working with people that are. I think everybody has the ability to create, and one of the things for me, theater is kind of a very spiritual kind of thing, because I tell people that Genesis talks about God creating the world, and for me, that world is still being created, and that being in the image of God is being a creative person, and that creativity is inside of all of us, and it is something that we want to express, and we can express it in good ways or bad ways, but creativity is something that you have from early on as you explore and discover the world. And what my job is to help people bring out that creativity. And I've worked professional theater. I grew up, I was in a rock and roll band in high school. I started out in music, went to college in theater, and thought I was going to be in professional theater all my life. And then I was working in Kansas City at a professional theater. I'd worked for Six Flags, corporate theater, done a lot of different things. And I was looking for something that wasn't about money necessarily, because a lot of corporate theater and a lot of professional theater is about how much you're going to get paid for this, what's your next job, what you're doing here. And there is the art that's there, but I wanted to be someplace where I could be around people who read books, who had lives that weren't connected to theater, because I think that enriches your life. And my wife and I, actually, we were in Kansas City. We weren't married, and I got a job offer to come to this little place called Paducah, Kentucky, and be a part of community theater, and I'd never worked community theater before. And I came here, and I kind of fell in love with it and thought I'd be here a couple years, and it's 30 years later, wow. And I'm still here. But the thing that I love about community theater is that you have everyday people. You'll have in a cast like the Grapes of Wrath that we're doing right now, I have people who are grandparents all the way down to elementary school children. And they all are working together on one project. And sometimes on a musical, you'll have the younger kids trying to teach the older adults, here's the dance step, here's how you do it. And you'll have the older adults helping the younger kids with their homework. Or you get that generational thing that happens with community theater, and local people have so much talent inside of them, And there are people who probably could have done this professionally for a living, but they wanted to have a family. They wanted to have a life that was more than just the arts. And community theater offers them that opportunity. And to me, working with everyday people to explore their talent and bring that out, and then watch the audience go, I had no idea they could do that. And even the person you're working with go, I never knew I could do that. It's like being a teacher.
I thought that I might be, in participating in a production, that I might well be the oldest person in there.
Oh, no.
But I spoke with someone who was 7 or 8 years older than I. So it ranges from there. Isn't there a grade school kid in this?
Oh, yeah.
A 7th grader or an 8th grader or something like that?
We have some middle school kids in this. The Grapes of Wrath is a multi-generational show, and it's got some tough subject matter in it, so we really didn't cast any of the elementary kids. But what people don't realize about Market House Theater is that the vast majority of stuff we do involves kids. What they see is they see the main stage program, which is mostly adults. You're gonna, they saw Perfect Wedding, which we kicked off the year, all adults. Grapes of Wrath is a cast of almost 30 people, and there's about 5 youth in that range from middle school through high school. And then the next show is all adults. And then we have Mary Poppins, which is kids and adults. That's the big picture that people see when they come to see Market House Theater. But what we do in the school system with kids, we work with 28,000 kids a year in a 4-state area. We are in every school in McCracken County, and a lot of them in Western Kentucky in the school districts, in those schools working with kids. And it is something that is, I can't express to you how many parents and how many teachers come back and tell me what a difference our involvement has made in the life of those kids. And it's not because we're teaching them how to be actors or how to entertain people. What we're giving them are life skills. We're giving them the skills of how to express their creativity, how to stand up with confidence and express your ideas, communication skills. The skills that, a parent will go, after my kid was involved with Market House Theater, their classwork got better. They now stand up when they give reports, and they have confidence in what they do, and they become a role model for other kids in telling stories. And there are so many different stories that over these 30 years of people who have grown up through the theater who come back and say, I thought every town had a Market House Theater, a place like this, and they go, I didn't realize how unique that was. And I have to give so much credit to my wife, April, she is the education director. She is the one who's developed a lot of the programming, just created it out of thin air. She has led national panels on arts education. She is, I may be one of the hardest working people, but she works just as hard as I do, if not harder, to give these kids an experience that is life affirming, that helps grow them, but she doesn't cut them any slack.
I'm curious, of all the kids that you've dealt with, how often do you hear of cases where they've taken what they began with here and are pursuing it out there somewhere?
We have many kids that have they've gone to governor's school because they got a scholarship, went in theater, and then they got a scholarship to any university in Kentucky.
I know of one person, I don't think they'd mind me mentioning her, Mickey Abraham.
Oh, yeah.
I understand is now doing theater in Los Angeles, California.
She's finishing up her degree at Northern Kentucky University. She's done a lot of television stuff and film stuff, but it's funny because we've had so many people who have gone on to success, and even some big name people who have, big careers in television or in film, some in theater that are on Broadway in New York. But to me, the real success is the local kid, the one who grows up, the one who, it changes their life. And I've had I had a mother who came up to me, and her 2 kids were involved at the theater. And she came up to me one day and she said, Michael, I have to tell you, you saved my family. You saved my kid's life, because they were getting involved in things that really weren't a good path. We were kind of out of sorts. And the structure that you give with rehearsals, and being in theater is like a family. That cast is a family that comes together, and you make lifelong friendships in that group, and people support you in that, because to be in a play, you have to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to, if it's an emotional scene, to cry or to risk people looking at you and going, oh, that's not a strong person, that's a weak person. So your character kind of lets you step into those shoes, but it lets you express feelings inside of yourself and be vulnerable. And a cast comes together and they all understand that and they support that. And we have closed rehearsals at the beginning because casts, it is that closed group. And you can't have outside people coming in to watch you and be vulnerable. So as you're working on your lines, you're working on your character, you're doing these things, it allows you to express who you are inside, and there comes something from that you make these friendships.
For sure.
Multi-generational friendships.
For sure.
And that is a life-changing experience. And we, a few years ago, changed our brand. And it became very important to us to state, we don't just entertain. You've got hundreds of entertainment options. You can stream a movie on your cell phone. You can do anything you want to entertainment-wise. You don't go to the theater because you don't have any entertainment choices.
Sure. I did
We say we don't entertain, we change lives.
Sure.
And that's what we're in the business of doing, is changing people's lives, not just on stage, but telling stories that affect the audience, that change their lives.
Lo and behold, the involvement that I've had from right off the bat, there's a fellow that I worked with in radio years ago, back in the 80s. And lo and behold, after a show, a person who comes up on the stage to greet us is another person. The three of us had worked together in radio so many years ago. For those kids who feel like the word punk comes out, that's punk stuff, that acting stuff, that's sissy stuff and whatever. Tell it to Halle Berry and Denzel Washington, how nothing this is. Does fantastic things to the mind. I think mostly always in terms of kids. In any given school system, how do you approach them? How do you bring it to them?
Well, we do a variety of things. Some of the classes will bring April in to work with the kids, and she'll do what's called creative drama. So it's silly things. It's kind of like, okay, I want everybody to walk around the room and pretend that you're walking on Jell-O. So they learn physical control. They learn how to do certain things, how to pretend in certain ways. But one of the things that theater teaches you in creative drama, how to express feelings. A game that kids absolutely love is called Ruin My Day. You get two kids. One kid sits on a bench. Another kid comes down and sits next to him and has to do something so obnoxious that the other person leaves. Then that kid slides over and becomes the person sitting on the bench, and the next kid has to come up, but they can't do anything that somebody's done before. Right. And when you have 30 kids, your mind is working, what do I do? How do I do something? And even in something as silly as, how do I be obnoxious? What is obnoxious behavior? What is, inappropriate behavior? Then you start going, oh, that's inappropriate behavior. So when you're in a social situation, I shouldn't do those kind of things. But we've had kids too. How do you express anger in an appropriate way? How do you express, when you're frustrated? What are the things that you express yourself with in a way that communicates that to other people without going out of control? How to control those things. And I love working with adults and kids because it teaches you so many things. AA is fake it till you make it. And it is that sense of, okay, we have things we do in our daily life. I teach classes on acting sometimes, and I say, we're acting every day. We have roles we play. Right now, my role is to be a guest on your show. But I'm also a father. So I have a role to play as a father. I'm also, an executive director of a business, so I have a business role to play. each one of these roles requires me to act in a certain way. You know, my mother always said, act your age. And I was kind of like, I am acting my age. But now people go, man, you act like a kid all the time. Well, and I get excited about things. Yeah. But we have roles that we play in life and things that we have to do to be in those roles. And theater teaches us that. And for kids who have some kinds of disabilities, the best thing about theater is they can practice situations in life before they get into those situations, because life is scary sometimes. And when you get into a situation, you know, and you don't know what's going to happen, kids who have some types of learning and some types of developmental disabilities, that's a scary situation. And theater allows them, okay, let's pretend that we're in this situation and this happens, so that next time they're in that situation, they've already experienced it.
Isn't there a Down syndrome guy that is now a very popular actor?
There might be. There are a lot of people with, you know, sometimes I've heard interviews with people who their parents would have given them medication if they were, you know, kids today, and these are incredibly creative people. But what the arts did was, it was its own kind of medication. It channeled that energy, that excess energy of those things into something creative, and what comes out is incredible work.
I mentioned to several young fellows in the neighborhood about taking sticks and building something out of it. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I said it, in short order, they had candy sticks that suckers come on, and then the wrappers that the suckers came in became the flag, not the flag, the sail, and the coloration of the boat. It was going to be colored in the same popsicle covers, and then from there to building a clubhouse, and I stood and listened to them and watched their faces, and I could just see them just coming out, just thinking, and that's a beauty about children that has to be, it needs to be.
You have to give kids opportunity to be creative. And the thing that we struggle against today is there's so much technology that wants to just let us watch something mindlessly. Right. We don't have to think when we watch TV. You know, it used to be called the boob tube because you were an idiot. You know, it didn't take any effort to watch it. And I just realized we're on TV, and I'm probably not gonna, that wasn't a great thing to say. But anyway, a lot of our media today, you're very passive sitting in it. It doesn't require you to interact with it.
For sure. And
things that, you know, it used to be go out and play. We had to find something to do. I love some of the new media, and some of the new technology is now bringing that back in to make you use your mind and use your skills. Exactly. But it's all on a flat screen for the most part. How do you interact? So what we try to do is give people tools and use that imagination. Okay, let's pretend. And the youngest kids get it the easiest. They can take a box, they can take a stick, they can take something and make something out of it. And the older we get, the more we get, well, I need this and I need this. All you need is just an idea, and improv is wonderful, because when you're improving with someone, the thing is never to disagree with them. Right. So if somebody says, there's an elephant coming down the street. Oh my God, what are we going to do? And the next person goes, oh, here, I got a peanut in my pocket. Here, I'll throw it that way and it'll, you know, distract the elephant. Right. Whatever they say, you go with. Right. Whatever you need is in your pocket. Make believe, pretend. How you come up with things, you've got the skills. You just need to practice at doing it.
Sure. And have an opportunity to do it and a place to do it. I notice sometimes the things that go on at the library, that are in that arena of thinking and doing, and then the activities that you have for kids at the market house, so through the market house, how it inspires, you know, those kinds of things. I was thinking just a second ago, several of the kids I mentioned live right there from me, and I like to keep suckers for them, and normally whenever I come home, they come.
Right.
And aside from the help I need from time to time with my iPhone, when they come down, they can't bring their phones. They have to leave. If they start down with them, they have to take them back before they can come down here, because I want their attention. Right. And I want to pay attention to them. I don't want them. This is for us. The intermingling of our conversation and our thoughts and all of that. And I want them. I've got nieces and nephews, great nieces and nephews. If I take them places, The rule is you cannot bring none of that stuff. We're going to be about each other, and that's a growth thing. Like you mentioned earlier, you're learning things about how to function in society with people. Period.
Right. It is tough. You know, people have phones and they are communicating with their phones and they are communicating, but it's not the same thing as shaking somebody's hand and saying, "How are you?" And they say, "I'm okay." Well, on a text, "I'm okay," right, doesn't give you the sense of, no, they're not okay. There's something there that so what's going on? Sure. So how we talk to each other and that art of conversation. One of the things that Market House Theater does, and I'm so fortunate to be the executive director of the theater and be able to help select the plays and the things that we do, we try to tell stories that have meaning to them. And there are so many wonderful stories out there from different cultures and different groups that need to be heard because we all have the same needs in many ways. We have the need to be loved, to be respected, and telling stories from different points of view allows us to step into other people's shoes and realize how much they are like us, and also to understand them better so that when we are in our lives, we understand what this other person is feeling sometimes through the stories that we tell. We recently got, and it was a huge honor, we got awarded the Governor's Award in the arts. And it was for a community arts organization. And I sat next to a gentleman who had won all these Grammys and Dove Awards, and I'm looking around thinking, am I in the right place? But the Market House has been there for 50 years and been telling stories and been a part of this community. And the thing that we are is our ghost tours that we just did. The thing we try to do is to take what's important in this community and share those stories and put ideas and discussion. The arts are a safe place to have difficult conversations because it can be about other characters. So we've done plays that was nickel and dimed about people working on minimum wage and the struggles that they've had. Grapes of Wrath is about what happened after a great financial collapse and an extended drought. You know, people kicked off their farms, people kicked out of their homes when banks foreclosed on them. That still resonates today. That sense of what the common person, the working person, the child goes through in life are stories we need to tell over and over again. It's kind of like biblical stories in some way, because I think theater and spirituality in the church are very linked together because we're telling stories about that have meaning and that are important for us to know how to move forward in life.
The difference perhaps in reading the Bible, not that you shouldn't read the Bible, but in reading the Bible and seeing the Bible with Charlton Heston and the parting of the Red Sea, and how much more of an impact, and then you apply that to what you've read, and you get like a double whammy. An understanding.
You see the kids in a church Christmas pageant doing those words, and it hits your heart in a certain way, and especially when it is younger people who are experiencing those, and you see that light bulb kind of go on in their head. Oh, that's what that means. I never knew what that meant. You see that with adults and with kids. And theater is kind of a collection of all the arts. It has the visual arts with painting, with sets, lights, costumes. It has literature. You have this great literary body of plays that are out there. And then you have the actor performing it, dancing it, singing it, and bringing all those pieces together. And it does something, and it's scary because it's live. Right. You never know what's going to happen. And it is that, it's different than film. It's different than some of the other things, but live theater, I think, will always be around. And what our modern audiences want, and modern people want, they want to be a part of it. They want to create that themselves. They want to be one of the actors in the play. Right. And that's what we do. We say, come be an actor. Yeah. We do shows where the audience and the actors are both involved in that production together.
I've seen that before, where the audience is part of the of the whatever's going on, and they have a part. That's
our next production. I auditioned Becky's New Car tonight, and in it, the actors are speaking to the audience, and at times they ask the audience to help them on stage do something, and of course the audience doesn't quite know
Right.
how to fit into that. But it is that more and more we want to interact with the world around us. We want to do it through our technology. We want to do it in human interaction through theme parks. We want to experience Harry Potter's ride. We want to be there. We want to do those things. We want to feel those things. And I think local theater, local community theater, and the theater that you have out here at the college, you know, we all are partners together to make Paducah a very special place. And it is a very special
most
place.
certainly is.
People don't realize how unique Paducah is and what the opportunities are here.
Sure. You mentioned earlier, I think, working with some 28,000 kids in the
Yeah,
area.
28,000 kids, and overall we work with about 40,000 people a year.
Okay, of those, what's participation like in the inner city, in Paducah?
We're in all the schools, and that's where we work with most of the kids. And we have a lot of kids who come down on Saturday mornings for footlights. We have scholarships for that. We just did an event this summer. We did a workshop production with the Oscar Cross Boys and Girls Club. We had the kids come in, and they did, I'm trying to remember the show, I'm going to get it wrong. It's either Alice in Wonderland or something like that. Yeah. But it was, I mean, it was a learning experience, and some of the kids get it. The kids go, oh, they just leap right into it because they're looking for something like this. And the other kids are kind of like, no, I'm too cool for this.
Yeah,
and we kind of go, that's all right. You know, if this isn't what your thing is, that's okay. But there are opportunities at the theater for everybody that doesn't cost anything to be involved and to be creative.
We've got about a minute left. I want to thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Very much for coming. And I've mentioned to several cast members down there that I sincerely feel that your talents could easily be utilized out there in Los Angeles, California, and New York, and what have you. And how fortunate we are to have you and your wife working in Paducah. I think Paducah's a wonderful little city. I really do. And you add to its caliber.
Thank you.
In what you do. Thanks again for coming. Really appreciate it. We could talk some more sometimes about some more stuff. Now about that part in the play. For Minority Focus, I'm Jimmie Moore.